All right, Knicks fans, we need to talk because what just happened in this draft is either genius or it can drive us all insane for the next 2 years. And honestly, probably both. Let's start here. New York walks into the second round of the 2026 NBA draft with 0 first-round picks. 0. And somehow they walk out with German point guard nobody outside of Europe has heard of, plus a Vanderbilt kid at pick 47. If you're sitting there thinking, wait, we had no first-rounder, and I'm supposed to be excited about this? Trust me, I felt that same gut punch. But stick with me, because the German kid, Jack Kayil, might actually be the smartest swing this front office has taken in years. Before I get into why, hit that like button right now if you've been riding with this team through every playoff heartbreak and every draft night disappointment, because this one's for you. So here's the thing about Kayil. This kid was putting up over 12 points a game for Alba Berlin at 20 years old. That's not nothing. But scoring numbers in Europe don't automatically translate to NBA buckets, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you something. What actually matters here isn't the stat line, it's the blueprint. And we already watched that blueprint play out in real time this past postseason. Remember the first-round series against Atlanta? Mike Brown didn't hand the keys to some flashy rookie or a max contract ball-dominant guard. He turned to Landry Shamet, a guy most casual fans wrote off as a specialist, a catch-and-shoot role player who wasn't supposed to be running point in a playoff series. And what happened? Shamet held it down handling the ball and creating offense before Brown eventually leaned fully into Karl Anthony Towns as the offensive engine. That's not an accident. That's a coach figuring out exactly what pieces fit around his stars. Now connect the dots. New York just handed Shamet a 4-year extension, locking him in through 2030. Why does that matter for a rookie from Germany? Because it means Kayil doesn't have to be the guy tomorrow. He's got a mentor already on the roster who's lived exactly the role the front office might be grooming him for. Reports out of the building suggest the plan is to keep Kayil overseas for now. Let him keep developing against pro competition before he ever steps on an NBA floor. That's patience. That's a front office that isn't panicking after a championship. They're planting seeds for the next one. And look, I know what some of you are thinking. We just won it all. Why are we talking about a stash pick from Germany instead of talking about running it back? Comment below and tell me if you're on board with this long-term thinking, or if you'd rather see this front office go all in on win-now moves. I genuinely want to know where this fan base stands. Here's what actually gets me excited watching the clips coming out of Alba Berlin. Shamet's superpower has always been that catch-and-shoot gravity, spacing the floor for Brunson, for Towns, for OG Anunoby, letting them work while he punishes anybody who helps off him. Kayil looks like a different animal entirely. His handle looks natural, live dribble, get to the rim type stuff. If Brown and this staff can simplify his game a little, turn him into more of a knockdown table setter than a high-usage creator, that combination of a natural ball handler who can also space the floor-off movement could be exactly the missing piece this roster needs 2 or 3 years down the road. But let's be real for a second, because this is where frustration creeps back in for me as a fan. We've watched this front office get magic out of the margins before. Remember pick number 58? Yeah, 58th pick in the entire draft. Most fans don't even stick around for that pick. It usually means nothing, but that exact slot, buried at the bottom of the second round, has quietly been part of Knicks history for years, tracing all the way back to a 2020 draft night trade that also somehow involved Landry Shamet before he ever put on orange and blue. That pick bounced from the Pistons to the Clippers to Orlando, to Phoenix to Brooklyn, and eventually ended up back in New York's hands as part of the package that brought Mikal Bridges to Manhattan. And here's the part that should make every single one of us sit back and appreciate what this front office pulled off. That same pick chain is directly tied to how the Knicks landed Jose Alvarado. Leon Rose flipped assets, squeezed value out of a pick that most people considered worthless, and turned it into the guy who became an instant fan favorite, a kid who grew up a Knicks fan himself and then went out and made winning plays in the NBA Finals. Tell me that's not one of the most underrated front office chains in recent memory. If that doesn't get a like from you, I don't know what will. So when people say this front office doesn't know what it's doing, when they say we should be furious about not having a first-round pick this year, I push back hard because the track record says otherwise. Late picks turning into championship contributors isn't luck happening once. It's a pattern. And if Kayil follows even a piece of that Shamet mentorship path, if he spends a couple years overseas sharpening his game before stepping onto our floor, we might be looking at the next guy in that chain of guys nobody outside this building believed in. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment. Are you fully trusting this front office's long game after everything we've seen? Or is a lack of first-round capital this year something that worries you heading into next season? I read every single comment, so don't hold back. And if this breakdown gave you a little more hope, or even if it just made you think differently about a pick you brushed off on draft night, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications, because we track every single move this front office makes. All season long, no fluff, no filler, just straight Knicks talk. Because at the end of the day, we didn't get here by accident. 53rd pick, 58th pick. A guy from Germany nobody's heard of yet. This organization has made a habit of finding value where nobody else is looking. And after 53 years of waiting for a title, I think we've earned the right to trust the process just a little bit longer. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next one.